The first time that Jesus spoke about the church, it's the first time the word church is mentioned in the Bible, is in Matthew 16 and verse 18. Now, in our last study, we saw that this great mystery, which is hidden from ages, what is it? It's about the church. And I want to turn to Ephesians first before going to Matthew. In Ephesians 2, you read there that this mystery is something where we saw in Ephesians 3 that the Gentiles, Ephesians 3:6, should become fellow members of the body. Now, that, as I said, that doesn't look like a great mystery that Jews and non-Jews should become one in Christ. But the point is, how do they become one? This is the mystery. Individual Christians here and there, that's not a great mystery. People have accepted the Lord. You know what they say, save souls. It's easy to go around saving souls. But to make them into one body, that's a mystery. And the mystery is not individual salvation. I want you to understand this. It's the local body of Jesus Christ. And if you want to know how difficult it is to build that, just look around and see the amount of confusion there is in so many churches. And the only way that it can be done is if we can understand what happened on the cross of Jesus Christ. It says when Jesus died, he made, Ephesians 2:14, both groups into one. In the Hindu caste system, there are the upper class Brahmins and the lowest caste of, I don't know what they are, I'm not very familiar with it. But there's a group called the untouchables. I mean, they are so much untouchable that I've heard that the upper caste people, if that person walks by and his shadow falls upon this upper caste person, he's got to go and have a bath. That's how much, that's why they keep these people at a distance. And to bring even an upper caste and lower caste person who's come to Christ one, see what a massive problem it is even in India. And the Jews and non-Jews were far more separated than upper caste and lower caste in India. The greatest difference in caste system in India is nothing compared to the way the Jews looked at non-Jews. Now we can read in the Acts of the Apostles that Paul said, no, there shouldn't be any difference. But you try and go into the villages of India and convert the Brahmin and the lower caste person and say, now you got to mingle together and break bread together and drink from the same cup. And then you'll see what a difficulty it was to make Jews and Gentiles together. We read it so easily in the scriptures, but it was a tremendous problem. But when Jesus died, it says here, he broke down, Ephesians 2:14, this barrier of the dividing wall. And if that barrier is not broken down, you can never become one with another person. And he abolished this enmity there is in the flesh. You know that there is an enmity in your flesh? You love yourself. You never fight with yourself. You never find your left hand hitting the face or right hand hitting the face. You never fight with yourself. But you fight with your wife. She's supposed to be one flesh with you. It says you got to love your wife as your own body. If you want to know how difficult it is for two people to become one, go and ask any married couple, honest married couple, who will tell you the truth of how it is in them, how difficult it is to live at peace with one another, even for 1 month. It's possible. It's possible if you have understood the way of the cross. If you have not understood it, even 1 week will be difficult. And imagine, this mystery is where people who are so different like us to become one body, just like this human body. It's a real mystery, I tell you. That's why people shy away from it and say, no, the main thing in the church is evangelism, reach out to others and collect money and do social work and care for the orphans and care for the widows. Never talk about becoming one. Because that is the most difficult thing of all. It's like sending your child to a school where they never teach difficult subjects like maths and science. You go to a school and they teach you how to play marbles and about something about geography and little history. And will you send your child to a school like that? You wouldn't. But that's what's happening in Christendom today. The most important subject is left out. But the easy ones are all talked about. See, this is the problem. And we need to understand this. And when we proclaim the whole purpose of God, this is part of the whole purpose of God, that we have to become one. In our marriage, we have to become one. And in our church, we have to become one. And we are so many different cultures and upbringings and differences of opinion. So as I was saying in Matthew 16, Peter got revelation that Jesus was the Son of God. So he said, Peter, Matthew 16, he asked, who do you people say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And Peter said in Matthew 16, verse 16, you're the Christ, the Son of God. And Jesus said, that's great. You're blessed because it was not your human cleverness that revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And now I say to you, on this revelation that you got is like a rock. On this rock I'll build my church. This is why the Roman Catholics have not understood this. They thought Peter is the rock. Actually, in the Greek language, one is Petros and one is Petra. Petros is a small stone. You're Peter, you're a small stone. But on this Petra, this big rock, I will build my church. Actually, he was drawing a contrast. And which was this rock, this revelation that you got, this revelation that people never get in the Old Testament. Now, Peter, you need to get a revelation of the church. You got a revelation about me. I'm the Son of God. Now, I'm going to build my church on this revelation. You got to see the church as a revelation from God. I meet so many people who come to our conferences and hear about the church and one body and all it. They go back and nothing happens where they are. Because they haven't seen it as a revelation. They haven't seen it as the most important thing. You know, supposing you're given a job in an office, a new job that you got, and you go to the office and they tell you the most important thing you have to do is this. And there are certain secondary things and less important things. And you spend the whole day doing the less important things. How long will you last in that job? They say, listen, you're supposed to spend 90% of your time doing this most important thing and you haven't done it. You waste all your time doing the 10% stuff. This is exactly what is happening in Christianity. The great mystery is not bringing souls to Christ. The great mystery is how can God bring people who are so different from each other and make them one body. I will build my church. Matthew 16, 18. And all the gates of hell means the powers of spiritual death. Hades is a word referring to the place of the dead. So gates of Hades means the powers of spiritual death. The powers of spiritual death will try to crush your life out of you, but they will not be able to do it. You will overpower it. That's the meaning of the resurrection. Jesus overcame Hades and the power of death. And the church is supposed to do that. See, it's the powers of spiritual death that bring conflict in a church, that bring conflict in your home. And they're always trying to overpower you. But Jesus said, the church that I build, if you get revelation on it, you will build a church, the gates of hell will not be able to overpower it. Satan will not be able to come in. And that depends on unity right at the center, in the leadership. That is why I keep stressing that if God is building a church in any place, He will usually start with two people who are dissimilar from each other. And He will make them one as a demonstration to Satan that here are two people who are completely opposite to each other, and I have made them one. You know, this is how it was in the church in Bangalore. Let me tell you a little bit. That God began this work through Brother Ian Robson and myself, and we are different in every possible way. He's an Anglo-Indian and I'm a Malayali. And you go through India, you'll never find Malayalis and Anglo-Indians getting on together, anywhere. Malayalis are a pretty proud bunch. They're the closest to the Pharisees I've seen in this land. And I suppose the Anglo-Indians are like that too. But they never get along with each other. If you don't believe me, just go around and see how many Malayalis and Anglo-Indians work together. You'll never find it. You who are Malayalis here, tell me how many Anglo-Indian friends you have. You don't have to go far to find out. They just don't hit it off with each other in this country. And God in His great wisdom brought two of us together. And if you know Him and you know me, you'll see we are completely different from each other in every possible way. And God said, I'm going to make you the beginning of church, but you'll both have to die to your own individual preferences and choices. And we are very different as individuals, and in the beginning we were very careful not to hurt each other. Like, in a marriage during the honeymoon period, you don't argue with each other or anything. You keep quiet about everything. But we got over that honeymoon period pretty quickly, and then we began to be frank with each other. And we said, now our bond is strong enough, we can handle saying, I don't agree with you. No scare, we won't break up. And now we have experienced that for 41 years, and I want to tell you, not one single day have we broken fellowship in 41 years. But we are different. And we have expressed our differences, but we are one. And that is the main reason why in 41 years, Satan has never been able to come inside our church. Never. He's tried so many ways through the years. And he and I know that. We have faced all types of problems from outside. But it never broke our fellowship, because right in the leadership were two people who had become really one. We don't agree with each other in everything. Let me show you what the Bible says in Ephesians 4. We want to find a scriptural basis for everything. Ephesians 4, it says, I want to put two verses together. And the two verses are Ephesians 4, verse 3 plus verse 13. So read verse 3 and verse 13 together. It reads like this. Be diligent, that means work hard, to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace until we reach the unity of the faith. So we haven't reached the unity of the faith, but until we reach the unity of the faith, which is until we agree 100% on every single thing, what should we do? Preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. So it's very honest here. Okay, you haven't arrived at that perfect understanding of all the details of the faith. Never mind. Preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace until we arrive at the unity of the faith and the perfect knowledge of the Son of God as a mature man, to the measure of the stature of which belongs to the fullness of Christ. That's coming. But that's a long way off. But until we reach that perfect measure of a mature, perfect, exactly like the Son of God, verse 13, that fullness that belongs to Christ, till we get there, what should we do? Preserve the unity of the Spirit. And that's what I would say to every married couple here. That's what I'd say to every elder. You don't have to have the whole church united. That's almost impossible. But if you can have the leadership united, that will spread. And there's a little core that starts with 2 and becomes 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 8. And there's a core that's kept increasing in Bangalore. It's not just 2 now. A core of people. And it's not all the people who came right at the beginning. Some of the people who came at the beginning are not even here. And some who have sat here for years are not in that core. But there are others God has brought who really willing to pay the price. And I'll come to in a moment to how to build this core. That's what's preserved the church.